Welcome to This Explainer. You know, some stories we cover here, they just wrap up neatly, right? The gavel falls, everyone gets some closure, and we all move on. But today we're stepping into something entirely different. We're looking at a narrative that doesn't just raise questions. It leaves behind this heavy, totally unresolved presence. It leaves an eerie echo. We're going to carefully unpack the timeline and the psychology of a case that has deeply divided people. Because while the facts on paper might seem clear, the actual truth, well, that remains completely obscured in the shadows of human perception.
Okay, let's dive right into this quote. He said it was self-defense. Not once, but twice. I really want you to let that sink in for a second. We are not just talking about what happened on one chaotic, tragic day. We're talking about a reality that shattered, reset itself, and then shattered in the exact same way all over again. And somehow, despite the astronomical odds of a repeating tragedy like this, he walked away both times. This quote right here, this is the anchor for our entire analysis today, the pure psychological dread of a repeating loop.
Section 1. The unsettling pattern. Now, I gotta warn you up front. This explainer isn't about an isolated tragedy. If it were, it would be heartbreaking enough on its own. But our focus today is on a pattern that honestly forces us to question probability and survival. And at the absolute center of this entire thing is a teenager, 15 years old. Normally, 15 is a time defined by, high school, hanging out, just growing up. But here, that youth stands in stark, chilling contrast to the unimaginable weight of what actually unfolded. Keep that age in the back of your mind as we move forward. Two completely separate incidents, two entirely different moments in time, but they both ended the exact same way. In both instances, a parent was gone, and in both instances, the exact same explanation was given to the authorities. When you really look at this, a 15-year-old and two lost parents, the sheer anomaly of the situation becomes literally impossible to ignore. I mean, it sounds straightforward at first glance, right? But the deeper we dig into this, the less simple it gets.
Section 2. The first echo.
So, to understand how we got to where we are today, we kind of have to go back to the beginning of the pattern. The first incident happened on a day that is universally supposed to represent something else entirely. February 14th. Culturally, right, it's Valentine's Day. It's associated with love, with family, with deep connection. But inside one specific home, something broke. Now, details would eventually emerge, statements, timelines, forensic reports, the whole shebang. But as with any chaotic event, the full truth never quite feels complete. But what is absolutely irrefutable is that on this day, a father lost his life.
Following that February 14th tragedy, the explanation given to the police was self-defense. Investigators came in, they did their jobs, reviewed the physical and circumstantial evidence, and in the end, no charges were filed. Legally speaking, the file was shut. The case was completely closed. But for so many people looking in from the outside, it just didn't feel closed. Because when a loss of that magnitude happens, the heavy questions don't just magically disappear. They linger in the silence. They wait.
Section 3. History repeats itself. And this is where our narrative shifts from a solitary, profound tragedy into a genuinely horrifying realization. Those lingering questions that were just waiting in the dark, they were about to return in the most unimaginable way possible. We start with the slow burn dread of this timeline. February 14th hits. Then, we enter this period of quiet waiting. Months pass by. Life, at least on the surface, moves forward. People go back to their routines. But then, we hit September 8th, 2024. And finally, the courtroom. An agonizing status quo was just violently interrupted, dragging all of that past right back into the present. The chilling symmetry here is inescapable. Look at this. February 14th on one side and September 8th, 2024 on the other. That later date brought another incident, another parent, another devastating loss. And once again, the exact same explanation was given to the police: self-defense. You have two separate events, separated by months, yet mirroring each other with a precision that almost defies belief. It's the exact same ending and the exact same answer, offered twice.
Section 4. Defining reality. Because this second time around, the situation just couldn't quietly fade away. The pattern was out there, and society was thrust into this intense public and legal aftermath, where these uncomfortable facts had to be confronted head-on. The case went all the way to the courtroom. And in court, everything is meticulously examined, right? Every single detail, every statement, every split second of the timeline. And the ultimate outcome of that huge public reckoning? The verdict was not guilty. Now legally, that is where the story firmly ends. But psychologically, well, that is exactly where the horror truly begins.
We usually think of self-defense purely as a legal term, like it's just a checkbox in a courtroom. But in truth, it is a profound claim about reality itself. It's a claim about an immediate, overwhelming threat and a primal instinct for survival. But what happens when reality isn't as crystal clear as we desperately want it to be? What actually happens in those chaotic moments where irreversible decisions are made in mere seconds?
Section 5. The quiet uncertainty.
Cases like this, they don't just stay neatly filed away in court records. They seep into the public consciousness. They create this intense atmosphere of internal debate. And the crucial point we keep hitting is trying to peer into the unknowable. What does someone actually feel in those split-second moments of sheer terror or chaos? When we debate these cases from our couches, we're trying to map our logical, calm minds onto a moment of extreme trauma and adrenaline. It's a real puzzle.
And what do they see? In high-stress survival situations, human perception totally fractures. Tunnel vision sets in. The timeline of events blurs together. Does the person see a legitimate, lethal threat, or does the mind, completely fueled by fear, distort the picture? We can look at crime scene photos all day long, but we can never truly look through their eyes in that exact fraction of a second.
Which leads us to this. What do they believe is real? This is really the climax of the psychological dread we're exploring today. Subjective reality shapes absolutely everything that comes after. If a person genuinely believes their life is ending, their actions are completely dictated by that belief. And that's regardless of what some outside observer might piece together months later in a sterile courtroom. Honestly, it's terrifying to realize just how fragile our shared reality truly is.
Which brings us to this incredibly powerful insight from the source material. Not just what happened, but how differently it can be understood. Some people look at this pattern and see a tragic, heartbreaking series of events where something went terribly wrong and a teenager was forced into the unthinkable. Twice. But others? They look at the exact same set of facts and see something entirely different. The most unsettling part of this story isn't the established facts we know. It's the irreconcilable, fragmented narratives that depend entirely on the viewer's perspective.
Ultimately, what we are left with is the kind of uncertainty that just doesn't go away. When the exact same justification appears twice for the loss of two parents, people are inevitably going to start wondering about what lies beneath the surface. There is no clear picture here. There's no single version of events that's going to satisfy everyone. Just fragments. Just moments in time. It's an uncertainty that lingers long after the gavel falls.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought to consider. When a pattern so dark completely defies easy explanation, do we ever really know the absolute truth? Or are we, in the end, just left with the quiet void of uncertainty? Some stories feel like they end when a verdict is handed down. But this one feels like an echo that's just going to keep returning. Take some time to process this narrative, reflect on the nature of reality and perception, and keep asking those difficult questions. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I'll see you next time.
If you want to hear true events, crime-related story, hit like and do subscribe Fear Labs 99, because the next story is even darker.